Ladies and gentlemen, our next panel addresses the backbone of the digital economy, e-commerce and D2C logistics. Redefining logistics for global e-commerce and D2C surge with speed, precision, and personalization. As brands scale rapidly, logistics must offer agility, accuracy, and an elevated customer experience. Today's session explores how technology, data, and smarter last-mile models can unlock the next phase of growth for digital commerce. First, I would like to invite on stage our absolutely wonderful moderator for this session, Mr. Satish Lakkaraju, Chief Executive Officer, brand of Nexgen Logistics. Welcome, sir. It's good to have you back on stage. With robust experience in high-speed freight management and end-to-end supply chain solutions, he drives Garudavega's operational growth and service reliability in domestic and international logistics. Next, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Enes Yilmaz, Chief Executive Officer, Widect. With experience in logistics and supply chain management, he drives innovation, operational growth, and global partnerships to expand Widect's footprint in the freight and transport industry. I can see Mr. Enes has some fan following right there, but I think we should all applaud for all the speakers who come on stage. Thank you. Next, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Kishore Lanka, Director, India Operations, Amazon Air Cargo. With extensive experience in e-commerce logistics and global supply chain execution, he drives operational efficiency and scalability for one of the world's leading air cargo platforms. Welcome, Mr. Lanka. Next, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Avinash Dhagat, Chief Supply Chain Officer, Honasa Consumer. Mr. Dhagat oversees procurement, logistics, and distribution for the company's skincare and consumer goods portfolio, ensuring efficient, demand-driven supply and rapid market delivery across geographies. Welcome, Mr. Dhagat. Next, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Atul Kumar, General Manager, Global Digital Ops, Fossil Grouping. Mr. Raj oversees end-to-end digital supply chain processes, e-commerce logistics, and global distribution infrastructure. His expertise in digital operations and cross-border logistics enables efficient global fulfillment and international market reach. Welcome, Mr. Rai. Over to you, Mr. Lakkaraju. Have a wonderful panel discussion.
Thank you. I know there's some time for the day to be called good afternoon, but good morning once again. But I think we've got good fan following each table. We've got Turkish team, we've got the Amazon team, so there's going to be good amount of cheering for the session. We're just missing out on one of our speakers who couldn't make it, but I think we've got a very strong set of speakers, and the total experience on the dais would easily cross over 100 plus years as a combination of 5 of us. As the moderator, I will set the context and then ask my fellow speakers to give their opening remarks. We'll try and make the session very interactive for all of you. It's a topic which is close to my heart because that's where I started my career in the express industry. I would say good 35 years ago, sort of it, but back to the express industry for the last 2 years. And I think this is an industry which is not seen so seriously like the earlier session when dangerous goods was being discussed and a lot of things were being spoken about compliance. But this is an industry which you can't ignore because you get everything today into your doorstep undoubtedly just because of the way the technology and the way the supply chain partners have designed it. And we can see international cross-border supply chain also growing at a rapid pace with companies like Amazon, and then now we can see Turkish looking at the e-commerce and more airlines coming into it. So we'll hear more from an user standpoint as well as how the industry is going in a CAGR of a double-digit growth in the e-commerce industry, and the expectation of the customer end of the day is only growing. We were happy to get products in 3 days and 4 days. We are now not happy to get the product in 3 or 4 hours, unfortunately, and the return logistics is also something which we are seeing is being done so efficiently. So there are a lot of positives out of the whole thing, but which are the areas that we would want to improve? So probably we will start from you, Atul, in terms of your opening remarks on the topic. Short and brief, probably want to introduce your organization because and what you all do, and then we come towards the end here, and then we go with the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Satish. So my name is Atul, and I am from Fossil Group. Hope most of you know this brand. So we are a watch manufacturer, and in Fossil Group, I am the head of digital transformation over there. So as we are talking about this digital journey, so lot of things when it's coming to the last mile, and especially for the country like India, where the people want iPhone in 10 minutes, so we can expect the watches as well. So yeah, so a lot of things to discuss. We'll discuss more in the upcoming, in next 1 hour. So thanks.
Hi, I'm Avinash. I represent Honasa Consumer Private Limited here. Honasa is a 9-year-old company. One of the mother brands that it has is Mamaearth, and along with that, there are 7 other brands that Honasa company has. I take care of supply chain for them, and one of the key, as you know, in India, e-commerce has evolved very differently. We started as a D2C company and a D2C brand, and has evolved to a multi-channel distribution right now. One of the key challenges in FMCG, typically in these days, is to be able to balance out each of these different channel requirements, right? So there is e-commerce, where the consumer has a very different expectation and the channel has a very different expectation. There is quick commerce now on top, which has evolved very, very differently in the last 2 years. Very different expectations again from the consumers and the partners. Then there are the traditional trades, which is in India. India is very unique when it comes to general trade environment and the entire deep distribution that it has, and modern trade as well. And then there are a couple of other channels that any FMCG company, which operates in India, does their distribution from. So the whole, from a supply chain lens, when we look at it, managing these different channel requirements and the customer expectations, when they're purchasing or when they're interacting with each of these channels is something that's very, very unique, and which is where the entire logistics, supply chain, data analytics plays a very critical part, in my view. Thank you.
I'm Kishore. I represent Amazon for all of the externalization business. The business is focused on externalizing our supply chain built over the years. From an end-to-end perspective, that's another perspective I'd want to bring in here. Right from demand planning, forecasting, to fulfillment, to middle mile, to last mile. There's a plethora of things that can actually disturb the speed, the reliability, and cost. And when that is not built right, a lot of things that are highlighted as enablers or accelerators fail to deliver the value. And that's one of the experiences we have had in building the end-to-end supply chain. When you see a 99% plus reliability, one is each of the miles need to be strong enough, but at the same time, their connections have to be synchronized and equally strong. Otherwise, it doesn't matter whether you fly or go by road, you would fail the customer promise. But otherwise, what we do in the business today is try to externalize this supply chain to businesses whose requirements match what we can provide. And in that value, democratize the access to small and medium businesses to be onboarded and deliver at scale when they operate with us.
Hello everyone, I am Enes Yilmaz, the CEO of Widect. First of all, thanks for invitation for this valuable event. I am always happy to be in India, such a great country. I'm coming here frequently, and I see the improvement and growth of India. And as a only foreigner speaker, I want to inform that this is great to see the improvement of India, and I see huge opportunity to doing business in India. I just want to talk about a little about Widect and e-commerce. Widect is a subsidiary of Turkish Airlines, 100% owned by Turkish Airlines Group, and we are established just 2 years ago. We are pretty new company. As you know, Turkish Airlines is one of the biggest airline in the world, in air cargo world, the biggest, third biggest air cargo company. So we are carrying air cargo all over the world as a Turkish cargo. In addition to that, with the growth of e-commerce, cross-border e-commerce in the world, maybe since 15 years, the e-commerce, domestic e-commerce and cross-border e-commerce increases a lot. Then our group decided to launch a new company, which aims to give door-to-door logistics to mainly e-commerce shippers and sellers. So Widect is Turkish Airlines Group's company, which serves as a door-to-door company, door-to-door logistics, especially started with export from Turkey, and now for next year we are starting our transit business. Just like passenger side, just like air cargo side, we are aiming to make Istanbul a big e-commerce logistic hub. Thank you.
I think thanks to every one of you in giving the opening comments. It's setting the tone for us to get into it. I'll come back to Enes on your name. Why is it's not Turkish Express but Widect? I'll come to it a little later because I'm curious to know on the name. But let me get quickly to Atul. Atul, you know, India by itself is such a large country. Thanks to GST, that crossing borders has become a little more easy. But how is Fossil as a company managing the cross-border? Because each country has different rules, custom regulations, not as complex probably as a pharma product or a beauty care product. But I really want you to give us a little more insight on how does Fossil maintain a consistent customer experience, because you can't have your watch being delivered in different times and different experience. How do you all manage that?
See, because as you mentioned that we are the global organizations and we are having our manufacturing, warehousing at different countries, different location. Now coming to the customer experience part, so as an organization there are two things, there is a combination of two things which you will have to maintain. One is what are your global regulations, global standardization, and then the adaptability of that in a local countries over there. 100% you cannot do a business the way you do in Australia and the same way in India. It's a culturally very different, or European countries and all those things. So one is that our policies related to the order processing, packaging, returns, customer communications. So there are some global standards, and then based on that, how locally we are going to maintain that, those things we do. We ensure the real-time inventory visibility to the customers, that the customers are getting the inventory. Whatever, we invest a lot of money on the photo shoot so that the customers will be able to get that the real thing, whatever they are seeing, they are purchasing, and when they are opening the box, they are seeing the same experience. So yeah, these are the things which we do and maintain.
So fortunately, my sons used the Fossil watch, so I know the box quite well. So let me get to Avinash, because I use your Mama Earth's aftershave one, which is now not available on the shelf in Gurgaon, just to tell you that. So you can look at that part of it. I've given the sample at home and told when I'm back next time it should be there. So I understand the supply chain challenges quite well. But why I'm coming to you specifically is, I understand the complexity of beauty care and healthcare products because it's more regulated, more complex. Entering a country is not easy. And delivering the product probably in Brazil is more complex than delivering it anywhere else. How does someone like Mama Earth manage those complexities because of the requirements of the law clearly in the whole supply chain?
From a global distribution perspective?
Global distribution, or also from a state regulation.
Yes.
State must be a little more easier for you all. Global will be much more complex, and it's a nightmare sometimes.
True, absolutely. So, first and foremost, in India, at least with all the changes that have happened over the last so many years, the entire distribution, reaching out to the last consumer, to the most difficult pin codes, etc., has become a lot more easier, right? Which, with the way the infrastructure has evolved, with the way regulations have become a lot more simpler and easier, with the way a lot of channel partners have evolved. So from that point of view, India clearly is not as challenging a market when it comes to distribution. But that said, there are other problem statements and challenges that needs to be solved for. Globally, and there are a couple of countries that we export to, and each of the countries have their own regulations, and we have to meet each of those regulations. There are few standardizations that have happened over time, and in fact, it all started from the fact that somebody globally, the whole GS1 organization, the way it was set, right, and said, at least standardize the nomenclatures, the way EN codes have to be, which is where in supply chain standardizations make a big importance. They do play a big importance. So while that's an example, there are some of these standardizations that have happened over the world. But that said, there are still very specific requirements for a lot of those countries, right, where somebody would need a specific certification, somebody would need a very specific, let's say, testing certification and so on and so forth, to which we have to comply to that. One of the things that we have realized is when we look at markets, if there are markets where a lot of these are some of the requirements, when we are able to meet a certain market's requirement, which are pretty stringent, it means that we'll be able to meet the requirements for so many other markets. So that's an area when we look at it, saying what are the most stringent requirements, make sure we meet them so that expanding, etc., becomes a lot more easier. The second is being able to do a lot of pre-work when it comes to standardization. So especially when we are exporting out, and because there are the change of hand happens multiple times, right? So there are customs, when you're shipping out, there are customs when you're importing in. We need the right partners, to be able to help us do all of that. And we also, in the countries that we work, we have the local partners that enables a lot of these things. So that's how we try and manage the whole global piece. But our key business comes in from India, while we are present in a lot of countries right now. But India is one of our, obviously, the primary market. And there, like I was saying, a lot of the challenges, in fact, a decade back, some of these challenges where the companies would have faced, we don't face it right now because a lot of these have been eased out.
No, good to know. And the truth remains that with the Indian population being so large, to cater to them itself is not an easy job at one part of it. And the length and breadth of northeast to the Surat and Kanyakumari to the Jammu Kashmir, and the number of pin codes you have to handle, it's not so difficult then to get into UAE or Sri Lanka when you do India. I can understand that. But let me get to Kishore in the context that we've been hearing the story of Indigo in the last couple of days. The disruptions that A-Cargo would have got as an impact of even those. A-Cargo is something which has seen probably the greatest of change in the last couple of years in terms of the amount of capacity that has come up, both with players like you, players like Blue Dart, Indigo and Air India. How do you see the role of capacity evolving specifically to D2C brands? Because today, the faster you reach to the market, the faster you are able to turn it around, because you can't get your product into the shelf after 8 days or 9 days from a turn. Where do you see, and I'm asking you very specifically because the general perception is A-Cargo is expensive. But I'm a fan of A-Cargo, so I would say it's not expensive because if you can hit the shelf faster. I want your thoughts on it and how can A-Cargo be a critical player in the D2C specifically for.
So one of the key areas of speed versus cost paradigm, where both of them are conflicting or seemingly conflicting, has two ways that we learned to solve. One is put up your inventory locally so that you are there closer to the customer. and the last mile from the fulfillment to the delivery becomes faster and precludes flying. Now, that also means to get the same reliability, you need to have your replenishments equally accurate. And the problem is the variance here, right? As the variance of the demand goes up and down, your replenishment or fulfillment strategies of placing the inventory closer to the customer often take a hit. And we found the learnings are going back to that ABC classification. So whatever is your costliest inventory, you don't want to replicate too much of it because variation, if it's high, it's going to burn you back in obsolescence and losses and reverse logistics. And doing those reactive transfers on demand within 14 hours of customer demand and making those promises available to customer, even though the product may not be there in the locale, knowing that a reactive arc is going to come and fulfill it, to some extent beats the best of both worlds, where you may choose to go for your A category and put them closer to customer, but in fewer numbers, and have your reactive arcs through air. When it comes to B and C categories, the idea is, hey, unless you believe the basket is losing it, don't ship it. But when you're shipping it, ship it through air because that one particular customer order still wants to get fulfilled, while your proactive arcs fulfill those inventories in the respective places. So when you are able to balance these two, wherein your costlier inventory gets placed closer, but in smaller quantities with reactive capabilities on air, and your B and C category inventories go back with proactive transfers, which can use surface, depending on where you're getting it from, the game is more or less, at a philosophical level at least, solved. Now comes the second aspect, where you really want to have, when you're so tight in your fulfillment, you want to make sure there is enough reliability when you say there is a 24-hour transit time, that it's 99% plus. Or else all the variances multiply and soon your 99% becomes 80, 85%. So going back and making sure your planning schedules are tied with critical pull times so that the shipping cutoffs, the handovers happen. And remember one thing, while air is faster, it's also prone to disruptions that may not be under control, right? Like the fogs, like the congestions in the corridors, etc. And making sure your last mile tangos with the middle mile. There will be places when the planes will get delayed for operational constraints or non-operational constraints. But if your last mile is able to tango, you cover up the last 1%. That's the difference between going to a 90-95 and actually being at 99. So both of these, planning inventory strategy right and making sure your supply chain actually tangos with each other, are the core for solving the speed versus cost paradigm. What it means is the choice of your carriers, the choice of your supply providers has to be made wisely. And when you're looking at these, do look out for an end-to-end player. Do look out if the player has the capability to handle exceptions in the middle mile and last mile. That's when you actually can play a very tight supply chain game.
I think that was a brilliant answer, like a good professor in a college, but with the practicality of what you're handling, because I think that's where sometimes people miss out. So I think your inputs I've actually made note, but let me get back to you, Enes, with 1, 2, 3 questions. One, what prompted you all to put the name as Widect and not anything else? And then when are you probably trying to come into India also, because we've got Atul and Avinash here, who else will be curious to know for the cross-border. And then the last thing would be, as a part of the continuing question, is that what prompted one more airlines to come now into the express and e-commerce? Because I think Emirates was probably among the first which announced its entry a few days ago, and they're coming into India, I guess, as well. So probably you can answer combined in one go.
Yeah. 3 questions under one sentence. So let me start with Widect. Widect, our brand is comes from 3 words: wide, direct, and connect. Yes, you're right. Widect brand we didn't use TK Express, blah, blah. We use Widect because these 3 words is the main idea of Turkish Airlines business model. Wide means wide network. We are flying all over the world. We are flying more countries than any other airline. We are flying more than 130 countries in the world. And direct means we are giving service directly to destinations with many different cities, many different airports. I mean, in business, building business, some business models tries to fly just the biggest cities, but at our business model, we want to be very close to our customer, very close to our suppliers. So we are trying to fly every cities in many different countries. As an example, in USA, we are flying, as I remember, like for more than 14 destinations. In Germany, we are flying more than 10. In every country, we are flying almost every city. So we directly give service to our customers. Direct words means it comes from there. And connect, we are connecting people, we are connecting companies, we are connecting sellers and buyers all over the world. It comes from there. Because of that, actually, Widect brand comes from the whole idea of Turkish Airlines business model. Your second question, actually, about it was about competitors, right?
No, when are you coming to India?
India. We will be in India next year in 2026. As I mentioned at the beginning of my speech, India is a great country, very huge country, and every time I came here, I see the difference. Because of that, we saw huge opportunity in India, and as Widect, as a door-to-door business, we are planning to give service next year out of India also. Right now, Widect has great service, especially in Middle East, Saudi, Emirates, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, Daman, Oman. Great last mile delivery service. We have great service in UK, whole European Union, USA, and also Australia. Of course, from here to Australia will be difficult with Turkish Airlines, but we can also give service, especially in the west side and the Middle East. We will open our service within next year, very soon in India, and we see huge opportunity in India. As the business model, actually, this kind of what we are doing as an airline, we are trying to get into the express cargo business. Actually, these other airlines also doing that. Emirates already announced that before us. Previously, maybe like 8 years ago, British tried that. Some other airlines also doing that. This is kind of we have airlines. As airlines, we have wide network. We have big facilities for air cargo. As an example, as Turkish Cargo, we have in Istanbul, we have a huge facility called Smartest, which is the biggest air cargo facility in Europe. I think it is the third in the world. We have many colleagues in all over the world. We have good relations with potential customers and everything. So we have everything to do that kind of business, but we didn't add, until now, we didn't add the first mile export custom clearance and last mile delivery and import clearance before. With small investment, we added that value add to our service, which is easy, and now it's going well. I think the other airlines will also do that. There is huge opportunity because in that market.
No, good. So I think you answered it, and I think it was a question which was on my mind. Unfortunately, I did not tell you, but Widect made absolute sense, and I've learned very good thing. And your love for India, I know Halit was here, Bilal is here, earlier Burak was here. I can see a lot of Turkish faces. I know that you have all your Turkish people in all the airports, so thank you for bringing in good capacity, and I think with Widect coming into India, it will give greater opportunities for Atul and Avinash as well to get into the other markets, surely. So let me go back to Atul. Without technology, nothing happens today. Anywhere I can tell you that is that whether it's conferences, whether it's ticket booking. How do you see AI and ML, because you're in the digital space as well, significantly improving forecasting, accuracy and inventory holding for global lifestyle brands? Because end of the day, you want to maintain the least inventory, but at the same time ensure that you hit the market fast. maybe your thoughts on AI and ML in the whole process.
See, as you know, like fossil is not only fossil, like we are having our like fossil, missile, Zodiac, Skagen, these are our own brands. And then we are having a lot of portfolio brands like Imperial Armani, Urban Exchange, Michael Kors, Diesel, DKNY, etc. So, and every quarter we produce somewhere around 700 to 800 new SKUs. And so, and to maintain that, so there are two major problems which we face in past. One is that how we are going to maintain the assortment. Like assortments are, there are some global assortments coming, but that's not fit for every country. Might be out of 700, some 250 or 300 is good for India, some 100 is good for Japan or some other countries. So with the help of data and AI help, we have created a proper tool like assortment tool, which define us that which particular SKUs do well in which country. But at the same time, we cannot rely on that what the tool's output is that. That might be tool will say that the black belt watches are doing good. So we cannot have all the black watches in our retail stores. So based on that, we have that 10-20% of the human touch that the humans can go and modify, the GTMs can go and modify those things. So that has sorted a lot of our problems. Then coming to the inventory, as you mentioned, so we are having our, like, let's talk an example, say an example of APAC region. So we are having our mother warehouse in Hong Kong. And then there are smaller warehouses in China, India, Malaysia, Japan, Australia, in these countries. So from there, we have created a rules of weeks of supply, that which particular SKUs, the SKUs which are doing good for us, those SKUs might be the 4 weeks of supply. Automatically after 4 weeks, it will get replenished and all those things. Earlier, how it was is that someone has decided that, okay, we are going to have 8 weeks of supply. It doesn't matter which SKU is this. So that's unnecessary, like creating a cost for us sitting idle in a warehouse or something. So we have defined with the help of AI and all those things, we have defined a very clear rule that the SKUs which are, there is a ABC and XYZ analysis with that, like the SKUs which are doing good, they should be like 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, based on the performance of that particular SKU. There are a few SKUs might be we are selling 1 quantity or 2 quantity in a month or 2 months. Let's keep it 10 pieces sitting idle, as and when it's needed, we'll do. So, yeah, so these are the things which we do. Again, going to the marketplaces, like, for example, as I mentioned that 600, 700 SKUs, there are 100 plus marketplaces where we are selling across the globe. So we'll have to do our product registration as well on those marketplaces. So again, there we are utilizing this AI tools and all those things to do the product registration, the listing part on these marketplaces. So these are the things.
No, I think you've given brilliant insights for us to understand how your Hong Kong mother warehouse to the rest of the locations. Now, let me get to Avinash for a simple thing is, getting from probably Middle East sometimes is more easier into India than within India. And, Enes mentioned that every time he comes, India grows, because the population's expectation is the next day delivery is something which is quite common now. I think within the metros, you promise that some companies promise a delivery within 4 hours. But someone like you has also, as a supply chain person, that you can't increase your cost. But at the same time, your salespeople will say customer experience has to be very, very good. How critical it is to manage cost and next day delivery in India, given the complexity, because I see that, I'll come back to Kishore later on that prime product and the rest of them, but how do you manage?
Sure. First of all, consumers here in India, and by the way, you rightly pointed out, the expectations are evolving, right? And with the advent of new channels that have come in fact, I'm sure, the standards that Amazon had set earlier is what led to some of these expectations, from the consumers, where in terms of the speed of delivery, the reliability of delivery, all of those expectations are now, the consumers take it for granted. That said, from a beauty care and a personal care company, right, lens, there are 2 things that we have learned. One, while speed is important, reliability is more important. So if we were to say, we're going to deliver in a day, but then it's not as reliable, right? And it's like a one-day roulette versus a confirmed 2-day delivery. A consumer respects a much more predictive delivery or a confirmed ETA than something which is variable, right? So that's something that we try and keep a learning on, which means every time speed is not the only driver, but being able to commit to a delivery and deliver in that timeline is a significantly bigger driver. The second point that we have understood and learned is as the consumer needs are evolving, the great part is in India, there are channels which have evolved to meet those needs. So if a consumer wants a 10-minute delivery, they are going to order through a quick commerce platform, right? Our job is to make sure that are we present on that quick commerce platform? Are we present in the right demand centers that we have identified, which are the right demand pockets for us? Are we replenishing those pockets from our end efficiently or not? Similarly, if a consumer wants, is purchasing from one of the platforms, be it an Amazon, a Flipkart, Myntra, Meesho, whatever, are we present in the right platforms? Are we then again ensuring whatever the platform is able to commit to a delivery to a consumer, are we able to link our rest of the supply chain to be able to meet those commitments, right? Then there are platforms. So for example, we also sell from our own website. And there our intent is to identify which are our demand centers and our products where a consumer would expect a certain speed to delivery, and which are the products where we can still deliver with a certain lead time, but a assurance, and then in a much more cost optimized way. So for example, we don't distribute all our products across all our nodes. The decision then becomes how the network needs to be designed. Some of the products needs to be closer to the demand centers, and exactly what Kishore was highlighting, where the classic way of looking at the product catalog and the demand densities and say, what do we place close to the consumer, where we are able to predict better and deliver faster? What do we place centrally or farther from the consumer where we are not able to predict? So let's say, because in consumer care, and we are a company where we believe in terms of meeting whatever other customer needs, which means our catalogs are large. And when we have large catalogs, there are always products which could go up to 1,500 SKUs or whatever, and then making sure that we are able to still keep those products available live, etc., but then deliver whenever it is ordered, while it takes a little more time, but we communicate more reliably in terms of when are we going to deliver. So that's especially in terms of how do we try and balance both the speed, cost, and our commitment to the consumers. At the same time, what we also try and do is so we also leverage our partners' capabilities and strengths in terms of taking real-time decisions. So for example, if there are nodes where we would have kept our products, but we realize real-time that they're getting choked and it might impact the customer delivery, are we able to take real-time decisions to transfer that order to some other node which can then meet those delivery requirements? Similarly, it comes to courier partners. So for example, we also work with a lot of courier partners who manages the last mile. And it happens a lot, especially during the season spike. So the whole in the last 2.5 months, all of us in e-commerce would have seen massive spikes during that season. And there are these pockets of either within India, right? There are pockets which gets congested, or there are courier partners whose hub would get congested. To be able to use that data in real time, keep reallocating the orders either to the right nodes or to the right partners, where we are able to minimize some of these disruptions. So that's also something that we try use data and technology to be able to do a little more real time and meet some of the customer requirements in that context.
I think you covered some bit of what I would have asked you as a follow-up question, which is the peak seasons, how do you handle? But I think you've clearly given me a very good insight in terms of how your nodes to rest of them. That's exactly what we do, is when one node gets really congested, we are able to immediately, using technology, push that order to the next one. Now let me come to Kishore for a clear reason, is that the MSME in the country is growing. The large brands have a supply chain manager, they have a department, they have a forecasting department, they have demand planning, and morning you have a full meeting. But here is a guy who's making homemade pickles, but has say 20 or 30 SKUs. And this is a live case that I'm talking about. There's a brand called Homemade Pickles out of Delhi. and I saw their SKUs, and yesterday their packaging came. She sent me 30 odd. And I was amazed in terms of their standardization, which we are talking about. I was amazed on the packaging that came. Not a single glass bottle broke and it got delivered to me. And there were 20 odd different type of pickles. And now they're going global, and that's how they came to me. How can someone like Amazon support this set of industry people? Because I'm seeing that going up really massively. And then I'm coming from a context because we cater to Indian diaspora, and every year we see the 5 lakhs people. And someone as small as us does 40,000 shipments a month. So is there somewhere that Amazon thinks about the MSMEs in any way in the long run? Because my point is, if someone like us has done 2 747s for Diwali of Indian sweets made at home, we are not talking about a brand buying sweets and shipping it, Haldirams or anyone. I'm talking about homemade stuff from India, catering 747. You can imagine, maybe I've done it with a charter operator already, but that's the potential that I see from India, from the MSME. I'm not even talking from big brands. Big brands can directly have supply chain people, can pick up the phone and talk. But is there an opportunity that somewhere India is missing? Because we're seeing that grow rapidly, because Amazon has a lot of those opportunities. So maybe you can answer.
So, smaller sellers do come up on the platforms as well, by the way, right? We have people who even send 3-wheelers into RFCs, right? Sometimes no-wheelers also we used to call it, like they would come and drop in the very beginning. There are 2 things that we are doing to cater to them. One is to enable them on the platform. We are also facilitating their first mile logistics through our less than truckload vendor inbound offering, where they can just book the inventory with us, and it is into our IXDs, which are intermediate cross-dock centers, and they will plan the inventory placement in the nodes closer to customer basis the buying pattern for these sellers. So one, for people who are wanting to come on platform, there is an end-to-end service. For people who are wanting to do for various reasons out of their own warehouses, we have Ship with Amazon, where we go and pick it up for them. And we offer them all the 3 modes of service. And for people who are actually intermediate between those 2, like I still want to utilize orders from my channels, like Mamaearth is selling on their own channel. One of the things that we are bringing up to the forefront that has remained in the backlines for a while is multi-channel fulfillment. For example, if brands want to use the same inventory that they are putting on Amazon to fulfill their orders from other sources, they can do that. So they can pass on those orders to us, it gets picked, packed, and delivered, just like any other Amazon order does. Okay. So enabling these 3 caters to the places where people want to do it from their own places, people want to do it through their own channels, but use Amazon-placed inventory for fulfillment, and then come fully on the platform where vendor inbound up to returns is taken care of. Now, coming back to the first one, where people want to do it on their own, one of the critical aspects is guiding them through the intricacies of promise, checkout, address validation. Okay. So for all of these, there is a huge offering that's being made and brought into the market on Amazon Smart Commerce, where even checkout will be offered with an Amazon widget, so that Amazon customers can choose to check out using that widget from the D2C website. What's the advantage of that? The usual paradigm at checkout is the amount of friction you want to create to capture customer details vis-a-vis the speed of checkout. Otherwise, you have drop-offs and other things. Whereas, if people who are willing to log in as Amazon customers on the D2C website, they get access to the same address book of Amazon, of their own address book, and they can choose their address. And at the back end, their promise can further be integrated with the services I just called out. So you get almost everything from your address fidelity to Amazon knowing the geo-vended codes of your address and Amazon fulfilling the order for you. So these are the accelerators from a digital standpoint in our smart commerce that help people accelerate their journeys, and in fact come from one to the other brackets that I just called out in the 3 offerings.
We are also using this, the Fulfilled by Amazon in US. So all it for our D2C.
I have a testimony.
Right.
Thank you.
No, I think that is the reason this is probably September. I and Kishore had a fireside talk in Hyderabad. And it's exciting that every time we speak to him, there's something new that I get to learn as well and see that there's a lot of information that a lot of us don't know, and we are finding for solutions. Probably events like this get me to learn every time that there's a whole lot of things that he mentioned today that people come to me asking for is that how do we manage? And I think knowledge is power, but I think what we are seeing is a whole bit of transformation that Enes was mentioning, is that every time he comes to India, there's a great amount of change. And when we were having coffee in the launch, that's what I'm saying is that even this conference is evolved with the whole set of participation coming in. But I think there's a lot more that one can get to do in the days to come, is that you don't need to create large infrastructures at your places, create massive warehouses, put a whole lot of people, get your CapEx to a highest level. Not really. And I think that is where the MSMEs can benefit out of setups which are already there, platforms which are there, and still be close to the customer, because you are talking about 700 SKUs. I think Avinash would talk about 1,000 plus SKUs at some point of time, and automobile industry may have 3,000 plus SKUs. And you can't keep storing everything. I think technology is where AI, ML plus these platforms as a combination. And what I'm realizing in the last couple of minutes is there's enough technology readily available. It's just that you need to pick up which is the right technology, because that is a big debate that comes in. So let me come back to Enes on what is a different technology that you will be using now for Widect, because Turkish and airlines have a set of technology already in place, and they are backed by the global standardization. But whereas in e-commerce, you may not have the same standardization because the requirements are so different, the rules are so different, and you may not get a standardized box like a unit pallet, a ULDs in the airlines. So where do you see that as, is the platform built within, or is it a platform that you all took it from the market?
Yeah, great question. Actually, from the beginning, we always planned for us, for that kind of business model, for Widect, our biggest asset is our IT system. So it's supposed to be like that. Because, as you mentioned, it is totally different from airline business. We are not loading with ULDs, we are not loading with big pallets. We are actually combining all small parcels together, consolidating them, giving to airline. Because of that, we need to have a separate IT system, and as Turkish Airlines Group, we have another subsidiary, Turkish Technology, which is one of the biggest IT companies in Turkey. They did our IT system. We have a very efficient and good IT system. We call it Navipar, which connects our customers and also suppliers. All of our customers connect with our API to our system. We connect to our old suppliers, including Turkish Cargo, with again APIs, and it gives us a very clear visibility from door to door. Every single step, every single action taken by our operation or our supplier's operation is you can see on our tracking side. So this is the biggest point. Our biggest investment is our IT system, and you know this. My friends, our other speakers always talked about the expectations and of the customers. In this e-commerce market, the biggest expectation is visibility. So and also the predictability. You should do what you promise. The service can be 5-day service or 2 days or next day's service. For a 5-day service, if you give it in 5 days, no problem. If it is a next day service, it took 3 days, it's a big problem. Because of that, and also the customer want to see if it's a 5-day service, what's happening in 5 days. From the first pickup to delivery, you should show everything. Because of that, we are giving a very clear tracking service for all these steps. And one of the biggest part of IT, this e-commerce business demand fluctuation is high. You know, in air cargo, with peak and off-peak season, there is a difference like 25%, 30%. But in e-commerce business, they know better than me, it can be 5 times more, 6 times more. So in last month, I'm sure the orders was maybe, in our side, it was like 5 times more with a regular time. Because of that, estimating demand is very important. So your IT system should be very, very strong. It should give you enough tools to make demand estimation right. By that way, you can manage the operation, you can manage the air freight capacity, you can manage the last mile capacity, everything. So the IT system is the biggest important part for visibility and also managing the operation in terms of especially demand forecasting.
No, brilliant. I'm not surprised that Turkey has got it in-house. So every time I used to walk into Halit's cabin, I used to never feel I'm walking into a cargo head's office, but it was like a computer lab with all his gadgets. So I don't find it anything surprising that Turkish has put a lot of money into the technology.
Halit is a computer engineer managing whole cargo in the region. So this is what we are giving importance to technology.
I thought it was initially a wrong man in the wrong job, but I later realized he's the right man in the right job.
Yeah.
So no wonder Halit is heading the region. So that's a good thing. I think I'll follow-up question both for Atul and Avinash is, he spoke about global visibility and what is very important. I think so Turkish got it right is that as an end customer, you want to have absolute visibility. Now the challenge with you or anyone is you have multiple players. He spoke about courier companies, you will have multiple of them. How difficult it is to get clear visibility with so many players? Because having been in the cargo industry, I know that even as of today, we couldn't get the customs system to integrate with our day-to-day. That means today when a shipment comes into the import, when the custom clearance is happening, you don't have visibility whether the bill of entry is processed and, because of the API integration. For you all, how difficult it is, starting with Atul, that your visibility, is it there to the core rest or there you still see some areas which Enes mentioned about?
So there are two types of shipment, I will say. One is that when I'm doing the D2C shipment to my end customers, last mile delivery. So there, sometimes we face challenge when with the courier partners, because some customers, they need a preferred time, a preferred slot delivery, that they will be available in the morning or evening. So those things managing with the customers. Then few interesting customers, like one of the interesting incident that customer has placed an order on Saturday. This is the Australia case, and we were supposed to deliver that on Monday. That we say that next business day, and she was expecting on Sunday, and because Sunday we cannot deliver that, and already the shipment was in transit. She called our customer service, said, no, if you can't deliver it Sunday, cancel it. And when the shipment is in transit, we cannot cancel that until it's reached to that destination. She somehow find an email of our CEO, written an email to the CEO that, so let's see, these are some funny challenges we face. So these are for the D2C stuff, but mainly for the B2B business. For example, suppose Shopper Stop in India, Shopper Stop is coming and purchasing some 10,000 quantities. So might be we don't have the inventory for all in our India warehouse. So at that time, whatever is there in our India warehouse, we will deliver it in 1 week or whatever the time it is. But we also give them a visibility that what all we are having in our Hong Kong warehouse. And then we give the time of 6 weeks or 8 weeks based on that. So in that, sometimes because of the custom clearance and all those things, that might got delay. So that we already informed to because those are the B2B, when Amazon is our B2B customer. So they know that these are the challenges that we can face. So yeah, this is it.
So Avinash, to follow up on what Atul said, probably you can touch on the aspect of returns and CODs and those inefficiencies, because one is just delivering it and you are imagining the customer will accept it. But today, nowadays, you know that returns is also a part of the whole process. So probably you can touch that aspect also.
Sure. Let me, compliment from what he was mentioning. So in India's context, visibility. So there are two, and especially for players who are in beauty and personal care. Like I was saying, we cater to multiple channels. So there are channels where we directly deliver to consumers, and then there are channels where we would deliver to a partner who would then deliver to a retail store, and then the consumer is going to purchase from there. What has happened with the entire evolution of e-commerce is that the visibility, the adoption of technology, which then led to a certain visibility being built up on the e-commerce side, has evolved absolutely great, right? So today all the courier partners have great technology stack, which speaks well with either there is an integrator in between, or directly it is integrated with the company setups through APIs, etc. And then the information flows in seamlessly. To a large extent, at least it doesn't happen where, the company doesn't know where the shipment is. Because, one, the courier partners are pretty reliable, the technology stacks are pretty reliable, and the information flow is very, very seamless. On the other side, there are these traditional partners. And in India, in fact, logistics is very, very fragmented on that side. So, while on the courier side, there are still large players where it's more organized. On the other side, there are so many regional players where trucking is not as organized. And to that extent, a couple of years back, it was very, very difficult to have that visibility of your shipment. So if the shipments are moving between your nodes, two of your nodes, unless until either you're working with a large player, or you'll only get to know, when the shipment connects, or somebody is going to follow up with the driver, etc. Right? What has happened on that side, at least, is there is now, with again infrastructure evolving, there are GPS tracked vehicles. If not GPS, then there are systems that ensures that through SIM tracking, every time a vehicle passes a toll, you get that information. So at least with some of those tech systems getting implemented, that visibility has evolved, and I think that would continue to evolve really well. The whole toll setups, etc., I think was a big enabler. Connecting those, ensuring that that information can now be picked up and connected centrally to certain systems has enabled some of that. So that's the other area, which is, while it is lagging the last mile delivery technology piece, but it is evolving very, very fast. And I think over the next couple of years, the visibility there also would, would be, if not better, would be at par with what we see in the last mile. To your question on returns and COD, I think first of all, the entire return problem, or NDR problem as we call it, is not essentially a customer, or it's not essentially a logistic problem, it is an intent problem. Right? Where you have to identify if a consumer, when a consumer is purchasing a product, right, what is the final intent of it, right? And you would, if the right technology and algorithms are there, you would with some decent probability know if it's a high risk of return shipment kind of or not. And then being able to address it at the source by saying, and like you were saying, frictionless. So, are we able to capture the address correctly? Are we able to pre-alert the consumer by saying, this is when the shipment is going to be shipped out, do you want it, etc., etc. When it is being shipped out, identifying the right partners who can then take care of, who are great at ensuring that the deliveries are ensured, the NDRs are less, etc. Identifying the right partners for those shipments. And then obviously at the last mile, making sure, as and when the customer wants it, if that's going to be delivered, and the touch points are more. So that's where the intent, especially on the returns and COD, is identify it at the source and try and do things differently so that returns and CODs are minimized. And that's typically, in my view, how this has evolved. That said, I think one of the great things that have happened in India is India, I think, has built a lot of muscle in terms of the return shipment management. What it further needs, as in a lot of players have already done that, what it needs to now do is build a lot more consistency in terms of, when a return shipment happens, rather than bringing it back to the source, because there would still be, there can be a different customer who can order it. How can those QC checks happen closer to those demand centers, and then shipments be rerouted, because that becomes less costlier, more efficient, and all of that. So that's the second leg of it. But I think at least on the management of returns, etc., with how e-commerce has evolved, a lot of muscles been built in India to that.
One thing I'll just like to add on this. So there are companies, already there are players in the market who are helping D2C brands to how you are going to optimize the COD part. So based on their purchasing behavior, based on the PIN code and all those things, So maybe on the website, if I will log in, might be I will not see the cash on delivery option because in past sometimes I might have done the mess up with some brands and all those things. So I might not see the COD option. Maybe you will log in, you have never done the return, you will see COD option. Maybe if he will log in, he will say, okay, you pay 100 rupees and rest you can do the COD. So based on the data, there are companies and actually that's helping the brand like us to, especially to manage the COD part.
I think great insights from both of you, but let me go back to Kishore. Is there's always a trade-off that is it speed, cost, especially when consumers expect prime time deliveries sometimes, and then your challenge comes is when the peak seasons hit, which we were talking in the earlier part of the discussion is something meant for Diwali can't be delivered after Diwali. How does someone like Amazon see that? Because I really appreciate that we spoke about not having deliveries on Saturday and Sunday in the other parts of the world. Whereas in India, it's very common that we deliver on Sunday also. And I was telling someone, having worked in the freight forwarding industry, I was never used to work on Saturdays and Sundays. Now back in the express industries, it's very routine and normal for us that we're working on Saturdays and Sundays. Now the question comes with the new labor legislations coming in. How do you set off all these? Because one is your prime time customers, set off of cost, and then the weekend deliveries, because if you deliver in the US on the weekend, it's 1350 as a basic surcharge that we put. Whereas India, you can't put a surcharge. They'll still expect. How does someone Amazon look at the whole matrix that's revolving around cost versus speed?
Maybe I should get you introduced to ship with Amazon in US, where you might not have that problem. By the way, 15 years back, Sunday delivery was not a norm in India. And when we went back, and I still recollect very vividly, asked the 3PL, we were dependent on 3PL almost 80%, 90% in those years. There was an exorbitant cost of Sunday delivery because it was purely pivoted on getting someone to work on an extra day with an overtime. But then what we realized, and when we integrated ourselves end-to-end, now we do mostly everything end-to-end ourselves, there is a lot more in the supply chain that you save when you actually roster for a 7-day week on the ground. So you're going to consume more headcount to deliver the packages, but you're going to save a lot more in the peakiness that you will avoid on a Monday. Otherwise, Monday was usually 1.6x because you had the Sunday load and people order more on Sundays because they're home. So you can so the answer to this is expand your horizon of cost. And now you see that actually doing everything every day sweats all your assets every day because the fixed assets, the line haul utilization, everything else, much more makes up. And look at the FDDS, the first day delivery success on Sundays for residential. Phenomenal, right? People are all available, so you can deliver them. And India is not even having unattended deliveries, so it has to be hand delivered in India. Unlike in US, where you can leave it unattended, correct? So with these factors, when you revisit your supply chain, all of a sudden, what was once only a customer convenience or a speed is actually an accelerator on cost and variance in your daily or weekly volumes, and hence your labor plans, everything else gets that much better. And when you do the peak, it's again the same factor. Now all of a sudden you have seen almost all the major platforms in India have this month-long peak. Previously it was a 3-day, 4-day stuff, correct? While the engagement of the customer is a challenge, and that's where we're trying to solve on the other side, this actually gets your spikes a lot more leveled. And you can actually hire on a decent 45-day contract, a 30-day contract, people, train them enough, and get them to deliver. Again, this all rolls back to the way you're planning along with supply indicators and signals in place. So when you have all of that, now you know, hey, I'm going to plan my event in A, B, C segments, and this is the demand I will generate. Yes, it will be inaccurate for sure, but then the rest of it is managed by leveling up your capacities. And you would see even in this peak, the speeds of Amazon were always pristine as much as the same because the middle mile is all planned and all invested.
And once you have this, all of a sudden you find the cost of coming back from backlogs is not there. The cost of your contact centers goes phenomenally down because people are not choking them with calling volumes. And the customer experience, because you want them to come back every year for the same shopping season. So the cost of reacquisition of customers who will drop off after your peak experience being bad has also to be gotten into the supply chain. And now you invest the broader horizon of what you have to invest.
Amazing. I think we are at the end of the session. So, Enes, any closing remarks from you before I hand it back to the thing? Is there anything that you want to convey to the Indian consumers?
As an airline colleague, when I see the countdown over there, you know, we need to be punctual, we need to be on time. I am a little nervous about that, our time is up. But as a last sentence, the e-commerce business will go on growing. Of course, there are risks in, especially in cross-border e-commerce business because of the custom regulations, just like in USA, and now the European Union is also looking for some new regulations. In Romania, there is some planned regulations also. So there are some risks, but for last 15 years, the e-commerce business, cross-border e-commerce business growth is great, and it will go on growing. So there is and the expectations are increasing customer side. So with the demand of this cross-border e-commerce growth, as the service providers, as a logistics supplier, we should be more efficient in our operations. We should be we should digitalize our operations more, and we should increase our effectiveness. By that way, the cost issue will be more easy, because as he mentioned, the biggest part of the cost increases the cost is not utilizing the staff, is not utilizing enough the aircraft. So with good reportings, with good data analysis, and with good IT systems, we should utilize our assets. By that way, our service will be faster and also cheaper. It is our aim for the future. Thank you.
Brilliant. I think you've summarized it, what I was supposed to do. So we are in the safe hands of the industry really looking at the e-commerce going forward. And if we discuss about cost, we talk about speed, we discuss about technology. But thank you so much, and a big round of applause for my fellow panelists who've done a brilliant job of summarizing everything. 1 hour was not sufficient, but we did our best. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Come on, everyone. Do you think that applause was enough? Not at all. What a knowledgeable panel discussion. I would request Mr. Mohit Mivani to join us on stage to felicitate our remarkable industry leaders and present them with a token of appreciation, along with our remarkable moderator, Mr. Satish Lakkaraju. First, we would like to felicitate Mr. Enes Yilmaz from Widect. Next, we would like to felicitate Mr. Kishore Lanka from Amazon Air Cargo. Next, we would like to felicitate Mr. Avinash Dhagat from Honasa Consumer. Next, we would like to felicitate Mr. Atul Kumar Rai from Fossil Group. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to felicitate our absolutely remarkable moderator for this session, Mr. Satish Lakkaraju. Can we have a group photograph? Everyone in the front of the stage, center of the stage, please. Can we all smile, please? Thank you.